My name is Carol Whitfield. I am 40 years old and I have spent 11 years working as a paralegal. I raised my daughter alone since she was 7. I have read thousands of contracts, depositions, and court filings. None of that prepared me for what my sister tried to do to my child. 4 months ago, my mother passed away. She left everything to my daughter, Emma. The house, the savings, $240,000. My older sister, Patricia, did not receive a single cent, and she decided that was something she could fix. She called it a family gathering. She told Emma it was about healing and moving forward together. When Emma walked into our mother's living room that Saturday afternoon, there were no warm meals on the counter and no tissues on the table. There was a lawyer in a gray vest, a stack of documents, and 3 adults staring at a 21-year-old girl who had come alone. But my sister made one mistake. She thought I would not find out until it was too late. What happened in that living room over the next 40 minutes rearranged our family from the inside out, and it started the moment I walked through the front door. My mother, Ruth Whitfield, lived in a small yellow house on Cedar Lane in Granger, Ohio. She had been a 3rd-grade teacher for 31 years. She retired at 63 and spent the next 9 years tending her garden, reading mystery novels on the porch, and baking lemon bars for every neighbor within 3 blocks. She had 2 daughters. Patricia, the oldest, was 45. I was the younger one by 5 years. Growing up, Patricia was the charming one, the one who could talk her way into anything. Our father adored her. He called her his golden girl. He called me his quiet one. When he passed 16 years ago, Patricia received most of his attention. I received the leftovers. Mom saw things differently. She never said it outright, but she noticed. She noticed that Patricia visited when she needed money. She noticed that I visited when she needed company. She noticed that when her health began to decline, it was not Patricia who showed up with groceries at 7 in the morning. Mom always said Patricia had the charm and I had the patience. I thought that was just something mothers say, something soft and meaningless to balance the scales. But 4 months after her funeral, sitting in my kitchen with a stack of bank records and a letter I was never supposed to find, I understood what she really meant. She meant that patience was the thing that would hold this family together when charm tried to tear it apart. What I did not know yet was how much patience I would need. Emma moved in with my mother 2 years before she died. She was 19, halfway through nursing school, and living off financial aid and a part-time job at a pharmacy. I could not afford to help much. Paralegal salaries in small-town Ohio do not stretch far, and I was still paying off my own student loans. But Mom had a spare room, and Emma needed somewhere stable. What started as a practical arrangement turned into something deeper. Emma cooked dinner every night. She drove Mom to her appointments. She sat on the edge of the bed and read aloud from the mystery novels Mom could no longer hold steady. When Mom had bad nights, Emma slept in the chair beside her. Patricia visited 3 times in those 2 years. Each time she walked through the front door, glanced around the house like she was appraising it, and asked about the finances. She never asked how Mom was feeling. She asked about the house. The second visit, Patricia pulled me aside in the hallway. Has Mom updated her will recently? I told her I did not know. She said someone should look into that. Then she poured herself a glass of wine and left before dinner was ready. Emma told me once while we were folding laundry in Mom's living room that she overheard Patricia on the phone in the backyard. She was talking about the property value. Emma said she closed the window. I told Emma not to worry about it. I told her to focus on school and on Grandma. I told her the right things would happen when the time came. I believed that. I had to. Mom died on a Tuesday in January, pancreatic cancer. It had been quick at the end. The hospice nurse said she went peacefully, but I do not think anyone who watched their mothers breathing slow to nothing would use that word. The funeral was small, 42 people in a church that held 300. Emma stood beside me the entire time. Patricia arrived 20 minutes late wearing sunglasses she never took off. The will was read the following Thursday in the office of Harold Simmons, Mom's estate attorney. Emma, Patricia, and I sat across from his desk. The room smelled like old carpet and coffee that had been sitting too long. Harold read it plainly. The house on Cedar Lane, along with all savings accounts totaling $240,000, would go to Emma Marie Whitfield. There was a line underneath that I will never forget. To my granddaughter Emma, who was here when it mattered. Patricia did not get the house. She did not get the savings. She did not get $1. I watched her face. She did not cry. She did not shout. She sat perfectly still, her hands flat on her thighs, her jaw tight. She looked at Harold like he had read the wrong document. Harold asked if there were any questions. Patricia said no. She stood up, buttoned her coat, and walked out without looking at either of us. That silence lasted exactly 48 hours. Thursday evening, my phone rang. Patricia. Her voice was flat and rehearsed, like she had been practicing the sentence in the mirror. We need to talk about the will. Carol, it is not fair. Mom was not thinking clearly when she wrote it. Emma lived there. She had influence. This should have been split between us. I sat down on the edge of my bed. I could hear Marcus in the background, her husband, his voice low and steady, feeding her lines. Patricia, this was Mom's decision. She was evaluated by her doctor. The attorney confirmed her capacity. The will is valid. I am her daughter, her firstborn. You think she would leave me with nothing? I think she left what she wanted to leave. She hung up. 2 hours later, Emma called. She sounded shaken. Aunt Patricia just called me. She said Grandma was confused when she made the will. She said I need to do the right thing. I closed my eyes. I pictured Mom's cedar jewelry box on her dresser, the one she had kept since before I was born. The smell of cedar every time she opened it. Inside were clip-on earrings and a ruby brooch she wore to church. That box held everything she considered precious. She had considered Emma precious. I told Emma plainly. Grandma wrote exactly what she wanted. Patricia is hurting, but that does not give her the right to rewrite Mom's wishes. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "This is not over." I said, "I know." I sat in the dark for a long time after that call. I was already thinking about what to do next, not because I was afraid. Because I had read enough legal disputes to recognize when someone was building a case. Monday morning, I walked into Morrison & Webb, the firm where I had worked for 9 years. I went straight to the office at the end of the hall. Daniel Marsh was 55, a senior estate attorney and the closest thing I had to a mentor. He wore reading glasses on a chain and drank his coffee black. He had reviewed more contested wills than anyone in the county. "I need a favor," I said. He leaned back. "Personal or professional, both." I told him everything. Mom's will, Patricia's reaction, the phone calls, the pressure on Emma. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he took off his glasses. "The will is clean. Harold Simmons drafted it. Capacity evaluation on file. 2 witnesses, then it stands. Patricia can challenge it, but she will lose. She is not going to court Daniel. She is going to pressure Emma until Emma caves." He nodded slowly. "That is the more common play. I want you to represent Emma officially. I want Patricia to know there is counsel on the other side." Daniel agreed. He also suggested something I had not considered. An audit of Mom's bank accounts for the last 12 months. If there is a pattern of financial exploitation, he said, it changes the conversation. I signed the paperwork that afternoon. Daniel filed the request. Before I left his office, I told Emma the same thing I would tell her every day for the next 3 weeks. "If anyone asks you to sign anything, you call me first. You do not read it. You do not touch it. You do not pick up the pen. You call me," she promised. 2 weeks later, Daniel called. "Carol, you need to see this." The bank records arrived in a manila folder. 6 pages. Daniel had flagged the relevant lines with yellow tabs. 6 withdrawals from Mom's savings account over 8 months. 3,000 here, 2,000 there. 1 for 5,000. Total $15,000. All while Mom was in hospice or too weak to leave the house. 3 of the withdrawal slips had her signature, or something close to it. I had seen Mom's handwriting my entire life. She wrote a narrow cursive that tilted slightly to the right. These signatures were too upright, too deliberate. The strokes were thicker, like someone pressing hard to imitate a hand that no longer had strength. Daniel pointed to the dates. The last withdrawal was 9 days before she died. Your mother was on continuous pain management at that point. She could barely hold a cup. I sat in his office and felt the floor tilt, not because I was surprised, because I had suspected it for months. And now I was holding the proof. "Can we pursue this?" I asked. Forgery of a financial document is a felony in Ohio. But criminal charges are a nuclear option. If you file, it becomes public. It becomes permanent. I am not filing anything yet. He looked at me over his glasses. "Then what are you doing?" "Waiting. Waiting for what?" "For her to make a move loud enough that she cannot walk it back." Daniel did not argue. He made copies. He certified them. He slid them into a manila envelope with the audit report and the will. I took that envelope home and locked it in my briefcase. I saved everything, every page, every time stamp. Patricia did not wait. She worked the phones like a campaign manager. She called Uncle Gary first, Mom's younger brother in Pennsylvania, then Aunt Linda, Dad's sister in Kentucky, then every cousin close enough to have an opinion and far enough away not to know the facts. Her version went like this. Emma, a 21-year-old nursing student, had manipulated their elderly grandmother into rewriting the will. Carol, the bitter divorced sister, was backing her up because she wanted the money funneled through her daughter. The will was the result of undue influence and the family should demand a correction. It was clean, it was coordinated. And by the end of the second week, my phone had gone mostly silent. Cousin Sandra called. Sandra was 38, the daughter of my late Uncle Bill. She lived 2 towns over and had always been the fair one in the family. Carol, is any of this true? Patricia says Emma pressured Aunt Ruth. Sandra, Emma was the only one who showed up. She cooked, she cleaned, she drove Mom to every appointment. Patricia visited 3 times in 2 years. Sandra paused. I want to believe you, but Patricia sounds really hurt. She is, but hurt does not mean right. Sandra said she would stay out of it. That was better than I expected. Then Brenda weighed in. Brenda was Marcus's mother, Patricia's mother-in-law. She posted on Facebook that some people take advantage of their elders and call it love. She did not name Emma. She did not have to. That same week, Marcus showed up at a gas station in town. Word got around that he was back. Patricia had told everyone he was gone for good. Apparently inheritance money was enough to bring him home. Marcus showed up at my front door on a Wednesday evening at 7:12. Emma was at the library studying for her clinical exams. He knocked 3 times hard. I looked through the peephole and saw his truck in the driveway, engine still running. I did not open the door. I spoke through it. Can I help you, Marcus? Open the door, Carol. We need to talk. About what? You know what? This inheritance situation has gone far enough. I leaned against the door frame. If you have legal concerns about the will, you can contact Daniel Marsh at Morrison & Webb. He represents Emma. A pause, then a laugh, low and dry. Legal concerns. This is family, Carol, not a courtroom. It became a courtroom the moment Patricia started calling everyone we share blood with to tell them my daughter is a thief. He did not answer right away. I heard him shift his weight on the porch boards. Patricia is hurting. He said, your mother left her nothing. That is cruel. My mother left what she chose to leave. If you want to discuss cruelty, we can talk about the $15,000 that disappeared from her account while she was dying. Silence. I did not elaborate. I did not need to. He walked back to his truck, sat in the driver's seat, did not turn on the headlights. He sat there for 20 minutes before he pulled away. I stood at the kitchen window and watched the tail lights disappear down the street. My hands were steady, but my chest was tight. Marcus was not dangerous, but he was the kind of man who believed volume was authority and presence was power. He was wrong about both. The following week, Daniel called me into his office. He had the full audit report finalized and a certified copy of the will from probate court. He slid a manila envelope across the desk. It was thick and heavy in the hand. The way things are heavy when they carry consequence. Everything is in there, he said. Certified will, capacity evaluation, bank statements, withdrawal slips with the flagged signatures, and a letter from the bank confirming the account holder was under hospice care during the withdrawal period. I picked it up and held it with both hands. What do you want to do with this? He asked. Hold it. For how long? Until the right moment. Daniel took off his glasses and folded them on the desk. Carol, I have been doing this for 23 years. The right moment is usually the one that feels wrong. It is the one where you would rather stay quiet, but you speak. It is the one where the room is full of people who are convinced you are the villain. I know, and you are ready for that. I have been ready since the bank records came back. He nodded. One more thing. The signature analysis. I sent the 3 flagged withdrawal slips to a forensic document examiner. Preliminary opinion. The signatures do not match the known handwriting samples of Ruth Whitfield. That is not a court ruling, but it is enough to open a criminal referral. I put the envelope in my briefcase. I drove home with it on the passenger seat. That night, I locked it in the closet next to the first set of copies. 2 envelopes now, 1 truth, 1 plan. Emma came home from campus that Thursday with red eyes and a voice that cracked on every other word. She came to my school, Mom. I set down my coffee. Who? Aunt Patricia. She was in the parking lot by the nursing building. She waited for me after my clinical. Emma sat on the couch and pulled her knees up. She was 21, but in that moment she looked 12. She stood there with her arms crossed. My friend Kayla was right next to me, and Patricia said loud enough for everyone to hear. You took what belongs to me. I felt my jaw tight. What did you do? I walked away. I did not say anything. I just kept walking and she yelled after me. Emma paused, her voice broke. Your grandmother would be ashamed of you. I sat next to her and put my arm around her shoulders. She leaned into me the way she used to when she was small and the world got too loud. She is lying, Emma. Grandma wrote exactly what she wanted. She wrote it clearly with a lawyer and with witnesses. Grandma chose you because you earned it. Every dinner, every drive, every night in that chair beside her bed. Emma wiped her eyes. Kayla asked me afterward what that was about. I could not even explain. You do not have to explain. Not to Kayla, not to Patricia, not to anyone. She nodded, but her hands were still shaking. That night, Emma asked me something I was not ready for. We were sitting at the kitchen table. Leftover pasta, 2 glasses of water, the kind of dinner you eat when you do not have the energy to cook or the appetite to enjoy it. Emma pushed her fork around the plate. Then she looked up. Maybe I should just give it to her. I set down my glass. All of it, she said. The house, the money. If it makes her stop, if it makes the family stop talking about me like I am some kind of con artist. She shook her head. I cannot do this, Mom. I am in the middle of my final clinical rotation. I have boards in 5 weeks. I cannot keep looking over my shoulder for Aunt Patricia in a parking lot. I did not answer right away. I looked at my daughter and I thought about my mother. I thought about the last time I visited, 3 days before she died. She could barely keep her eyes open, but she squeezed my hand and said, Emma is the one who stayed. She said it like a fact, like weather. No, I said. Emma looked at me. You are not signing anything. You are not giving anything away. Grandma left this to you because she wanted you to have it. Not because she forgot about Patricia, because she remembered everything Patricia did and still chose you. Emma was quiet for a long time. I am going to fix this, I said, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that? She nodded. I trust you. Good, now eat your pasta. She almost smiled. That was enough. The next morning, Patricia sent a group text to the whole family. The message went out at 8:43 on a Monday morning. I know because I was pouring coffee when my phone buzzed 4 times in a row. Patricia had created a group chat. Me, Emma, Sandra, Uncle Gary, Aunt Linda, Brenda, and Marcus. Family gathering this Saturday at Mom's house, 2 in the afternoon. We need to settle this like adults. Everyone is welcome. This is about doing right by Mom's memory. Emma forwarded it to me. Are you going? No, I said. You are. She stared at me. You are going to walk in there, sit down, and listen. You are not going to argue. You are not going to defend yourself. And you are absolutely not going to sign a single piece of paper. What if they have a lawyer? That question told me everything. Emma was not naive. She had grown up watching me read depositions at the kitchen table. She knew what a coordinated effort looked like. If they have a lawyer, you sit and listen. You say, I need time to review this with my own counsel. That is it. That is the only sentence you need. She nodded slowly. And where will you be? Close. I called Daniel that afternoon. Saturday, 2 in the afternoon, Mom's house on Cedar Lane. If they try anything, I need you there. Daniel was quiet for a moment. How close do you want me? In your car outside. I will text you. You walk in. Done. I spent the rest of the week preparing. I reviewed the certified will. I organized the bank records. I reread the forensic examiner's preliminary report. I put everything in my briefcase, organized by tab, indexed by date. Saturday came faster than I wanted it to. 2 days before the meeting, Thursday evening, Emma called from Mom's house. She had been packing up some of the bedroom closets, sorting through coats and scarves and old photo albums. Mom, I found something. Her voice was careful, not upset. Careful. In Grandma's cedar box, the jewelry one, I was looking for her pearl brooch to wear Saturday. I lifted the velvet lining and there was a letter underneath. My chest tightened. A letter in Grandma's handwriting addressed to me. I drove to Cedar Lane in 14 minutes. Emma was sitting on the edge of the bed, the cedar box open beside her. The smell hit me the second I walked in. Cedar and dust and something faintly sweet like lotion. The smell of my mother's room. The letter was 2 pages. Yellow legal paper, blue ink, narrow cursive tilting slightly to the right. It was unmistakably Mom's hand. Emma gave it to me without a word. The letter began. Dear Emma, if you are reading this, then the will has been read and Patricia is angry. I know because I know my daughter. I read the rest standing in the hallway with my back against the wall. She wrote that Patricia had borrowed $80,000 over 15 years. She wrote that none of it was ever repaid. She wrote that when she was in the hospital for a week in March, 2 years before she died, someone withdrew money from her savings using her name. I know who. I did not confront her because I did not have the strength for that fight. But I changed my will because love should not be a debt someone collects on. The last line read, show this to your mother. She will know what to do. I read the letter once more. Then I folded it, slid it back into the envelope, and put it in my briefcase. Friday morning, I sat across from Daniel in his office with the letter on the desk between us. He read it twice. Then he set it down and pressed his fingers together. "This is consistent with the bank records," he said. "Your mother documented the pattern herself. 80,000 in loans, 0 repayment, unauthorized withdrawals. She was aware and chose not to confront. She chose to protect herself the only way she could, through the will." Daniel nodded. "This letter will not hold up as a legal affidavit, but as corroborative evidence it is strong. It establishes intent. It confirms the financial exploitation, and it explains the disinheritance. I am not planning to use it in court." He looked at me. "Then where?" "In the room, in front of the people Patricia convinced that Emma stole from our mother." Daniel understood. He always did. We spent the next 2 hours organizing the certified will, the bank audit, the forensic handwriting analysis, and Mom's letter. Everything went into my briefcase in tabbed sections. Daniel printed a summary sheet, 1 page listing each piece of evidence with dates. Before I left, I called Emma. "You are going to walk in at 2. Sit in the armchair by the window. Do not sit on the couch next to Patricia. If anyone hands you a document, say, 'I will review this with my counsel.' If it gets heated, stay quiet. I will be there when you need me." She paused. "I am scared. I know, but you are not going to be alone. I promise." That night I set the briefcase by the front door. I checked it twice before I went to bed. I checked it again at 5 in the morning. Saturday morning at 6:47. I was already awake. Emma wore a white blouse and dark slacks. She pinned Mom's pearl brooch to her collar. She looked older than 21. She looked like someone walking into something she did not choose but refused to run from. We drove separately. Emma arrived first, parking at the curb. I parked 2 blocks east behind the hardware store where nobody from the family would see my car. Daniel was already in position. Silver sedan 1 block north, engine off, phone in hand. I texted him, "2 vehicles I do not recognize." He replied, "Copy, standing by." From where I sat, I could see the front of Mom's house, Emma's car at the curb, Marcus's black truck in the driveway, and a dark gray sedan I had never seen before. That was the lawyer's car. I watched Emma walk up the front steps. She paused at the door and touched the pearl brooch on her collar. Then she opened the door and went inside. I sat in my car. My hands were on the steering wheel. My briefcase was on the passenger seat. The clock on the dashboard read 1:58. 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed. "Emma, there is a man I do not know. Gray vest, briefcase. He is sitting at the dining table." I typed back, "Do not sign anything. Listen only, I am close." She replied, "Okay." I texted Daniel. "They brought a lawyer. You are up. Wait for my signal." He replied, "Ready." The wind blew a napkin across the lawn. The curtains in the front window were drawn. Inside that house, 3 adults were about to pressure my daughter into giving away everything my mother had left her. I sat there, I breathed, I waited, not much longer now. Emma told me afterward what happened in the first 10 minutes. She walked into the living room and saw Patricia on the couch, legs crossed, hands folded, calm and composed, like she had rehearsed this for days. Marcus stood by the window with his arms crossed, looking out at the street. He did not say hello. Brenda, Marcus's mother, sat in the recliner near the bookshelf. She wore a beige cardigan and a face that said she had already decided who was guilty. And at the dining table, a man Emma had never seen before. Mid-40s, gray vest over a white shirt, a leather folder open in front of him. His name was Neil Pratt. He was not an estate attorney. He was a general practice lawyer and a friend of Marcus from the Veterans Hall. There was a manila envelope on the coffee table. Tan, sealed, waiting. Patricia smiled. "Emma, honey, sit down." "We are so glad you came." Emma sat in the armchair by the window like I told her. She kept her purse on her lap and her hands still. "We want to resolve this," Patricia continued. "Mom would not have wanted us fighting. This is about family." Emma said nothing. Neil cleared his throat. He opened the manila envelope and slid a document across the coffee table toward Emma. "This is a voluntary relinquishment of your rights to the estate assets," he said. "Standard procedure. Once you sign, the assets transfer to your aunt and we can all move forward." Emma stayed in the chair. She did not reach for the paper. Not yet. Neil slid the document closer and tapped it with 1 finger. "It is straightforward, Emma. 2 pages. Signature on the last line. We can have this resolved in 5 minutes." Emma picked it up. She read the first paragraph, then the second. Her face did not change. "This says I give up all rights to the house and savings. It also says I waive my right to contest any future claims against the estate." Neil nodded. "Correct. It is a clean transfer. Clean for who?" Nobody answered. Patricia uncrossed her legs and leaned forward. "Emma, your grandmother was sick. She was not thinking straight. I am her daughter. I took care of her for years. You are 21. What are you going to do with a house and $200,000? Let me take care of it." That is what family does. Brenda chimed in from the recliner. Your grandmother would have wanted it this way. Emma set the paper down on the table. She looked at Patricia, then at Neil, then at Marcus, still standing by the window like a bouncer at a bad restaurant. I need to read this with my own attorney. Neil shook his head. There is no need for that. This is a simple family agreement. I said I need to read it with my own attorney. The room went quiet. Patricia's smile thinned. Marcus turned from the window. Brenda shifted in the recliner. 3 adults staring at a 21-year-old girl. The same girl who had cooked dinner every night for 2 years and slept in a chair beside her dying grandmother. They looked at her like she was the problem. And then there was a knock at the front door. I opened the door myself. I did not knock twice. I did not wait to be invited. The living room was exactly as Emma had described. Patricia on the couch, Marcus by the window, Brenda in the recliner, Neil at the dining table with his leather folder, and my daughter in the armchair sitting upright with her hands in her lap and the pearl brooch catching the light from the window. I stepped inside, closed the door behind me, and set my briefcase by my feet. Sorry, I am late. Patricia stood up halfway, then sat back down. This is a family meeting, Carol. You were not invited. My daughter was. Emma is an adult. She can handle this on her own. She is handling it fine. That is exactly why she did not sign. I walked to the armchair and stood beside Emma. I put my hand on her shoulder. She exhaled. I felt it through her blouse. Marcus stepped forward. Carol, nobody wants a fight. We are trying to settle this the right way. Then you will not mind that I am here to help settle it. Neil closed his leather folder. Ma'am, this is a private discussion. I looked at him. A private discussion with a lawyer present, a legal document on the table, and no independent counsel for the signatory. That is not a discussion. That is a pressure campaign. Neil's jaw tightened. I sat down on the arm of Emma's chair, crossed my ankles, and folded my hands. I did not open the briefcase. Not yet. So I said, who wants to start? Nobody spoke. The clock on the mantel ticked. It was the same clock that had been in this room since I was 6 years old. Mom wound it every Sunday. I waited. Patricia recovered first. She always did. Composure was her sharpest tool, and she used it the way other people use charm. We are all here because of Mom, she said. She pressed her palms together. And I think we owe it to her memory to resolve this fairly. Emma is young. She does not need the burden of a house and a large sum of money at 21. I am offering to take responsibility for the estate, manage it, and make sure everyone benefits. Everyone meaning you, I said. Everyone meaning the family. Marcus moved from the window to the edge of the dining table. Carol, you are making this harder than it needs to be. Patricia is the eldest. She was Mom's first child. She has every right to. She has no right, I said quietly. Not to this house, not to that money. Mom made her choice and the court has certified it. Neil tried again. The document Emma was reviewing is entirely voluntary. No one is forcing. Mr. Pratt, I said his name and watched him flinch. He had not introduced himself. I had gotten it from Daniel, who had looked up the sedan's plates that morning. You are not a certified estate attorney. You are a general practice lawyer who handles property disputes and minor civil matters. You were not retained by Emma, and you did not provide independent legal advice. Anything she signs in this room without her own counsel present is contestable. The room went very still. Neil looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at Patricia. Patricia looked at the carpet. I was not finished, but I did not rush. In my experience, the most effective thing you can say after a statement like that is nothing at all. So I let the silence do its work. The front door opened without a knock. Sandra walked in carrying a bottle of wine and a confused expression. She wore a denim jacket, and her hair was still damp like she had rushed out of the shower. She stopped in the entryway, looked at the dining table, looked at Neil, looked at the document still sitting on the coffee table. What is going on? Patricia stood up. Sandra, thank you for coming. We are just finishing up some family paperwork. Sandra set the wine on the hallway table. You told me this was dinner. You said you were making Mom's pot roast and we were going to go through some old photos. We are. After. Sandra looked at Emma. Emma met her eyes and shook her head once, a tiny motion, but Sandra caught it. Patricia, who is that man? She pointed at Neil. He is helping us with some legal formalities at a family dinner. Brenda spoke from the recliner. It is nothing, Sandra, just some paperwork Emma needs to sign. Sandra turned to me. Carol, what is happening? My sister organized a meeting with a lawyer to pressure Emma into signing away her inheritance. No independent counsel, no prior notice. Emma is 21 years old and she was sitting in this room alone until I arrived. Sandra's face changed. She looked at Patricia, then at the document on the table, then at Neil. She crossed her arms. Nobody told me there would be lawyers here. Patricia's composure cracked. It is not like that. Then what is it like? Sandra said, because from where I am standing it looks exactly like that. That was the moment I reached for my phone. I typed one word to Daniel. Now. 90 seconds later, there was a firm knock at the front door. 3 knocks, measured, professional. I stood up and walked to the door. I opened it. Daniel Marsh stood on the porch in a charcoal suit, a leather briefcase in his left hand. He was 6'2", gray at the temples, and had the kind of face that made courtrooms go quiet. Patricia was on her feet before he crossed the threshold. Who is this? I stepped aside, looked at my sister, and said it the way I had been practicing in my head for 3 weeks. Funny, she brought someone too. Daniel walked in. He did not shake hands. He did not smile. He set his briefcase on the dining table directly beside Neil's leather folder. Daniel Marsh, Estate Law. I represent Emma Whitfield in all matters related to the Ruth Whitfield estate. Neil looked up. His face went white. I did not know if he recognized the name or the firm, but he recognized the weight. Are you retained by the beneficiary? Neil asked. I am. Neil started gathering his papers slowly. The sound of pages sliding together was the only noise in the room. Patricia pointed at Daniel. This is ridiculous. We are trying to handle this as a family. Daniel ignored her. He picked up the voluntary relinquishment document from the coffee table. Read it in silence. 30 seconds. Then he set it down. This document purports to transfer the full estate to Patricia Kessler without compensation and includes a clause waiving the beneficiary's right to contest. It was drafted without independent counsel for the signatory. He looked at Neil. Who prepared this? I did. Are you certified in estate or probate law? Silence. This document has no legal standing, Daniel said, and I advise my client not to review, sign, or acknowledge it. Neil closed his folder. He looked at Marcus. Marcus did not look back. Daniel remained standing. He placed both hands flat on the dining table. Let me be clear about the legal position. The will of Ruth Eleanor Whitfield was executed on March 14, 2024 in the presence of 2 witnesses and a notary public. It was accompanied by a physician's evaluation confirming testamentary capacity. The will has been filed and certified by the county probate court. It is final. He turned to Patricia. No voluntary relinquishment, no family agreement, and no pressure applied in this room or anywhere else changes the legal standing of that will. Emma Whitfield is the sole beneficiary. That is not a suggestion. That is a court-certified fact. Patricia's mouth opened. No words came out. Brenda stood up from the recliner. This is a family matter. You have no business here. Daniel did not look at her. Ma'am, the moment a lawyer was brought to this meeting and a legal document was placed in front of a beneficiary without independent counsel, it stopped being a family matter. Sandra was standing by the hallway. She had not moved since Daniel walked in. Her arms were still crossed, but her expression had shifted. She was watching Patricia the way you watch someone you used to trust. Marcus picked up his jacket from the back of a chair. He put it on slowly, like a man deciding which exit to use. Neil stood. I think we are done here. He looked at Marcus. I told you this was not the way to handle it. Marcus said nothing. Neil walked out the front door. His gray sedan pulled away 30 seconds later. 4 people remained in the room and the balance of power had shifted entirely. Patricia was still standing, but she was no longer in charge. Patricia sat back down on the couch. She pressed her fingers to her temples. This is not about money, she said. Her voice was quieter now, thinner. This is about what is right. Mom would never leave me with nothing. She loved me. She did love you, I said. That was never the question. Then why? Patricia looked at me. Her mascara had started to smudge at the edges. Why would she do this to me? I did not answer yet. I let the question sit in the room. I let everyone in that room hear the desperation underneath it, because desperation is different from entitlement. Desperation you can work with, entitlement you cannot. Brenda leaned forward. Patricia gave everything for that family. She planned every holiday. She organized the reunion. She was the one who kept everyone together. She was the one who kept everyone's phone numbers, I said. That is not the same thing. Brenda's mouth tightened. Patricia stood again. She walked to the window where Marcus had been standing and looked out at the empty driveway. Marcus was gone. His truck was gone. Neil was gone. You have all decided I am the villain, she said. Fine. But I was her daughter too, and I deserved something. Sandra shifted her weight. Emma looked at her hands. I looked at my sister. I looked at the woman who had called my daughter a thief, who had shown up at her campus and humiliated her in front of classmates, who had forged our mother's signature while she was too weak to hold a pen. And I thought, you are about to find out exactly what you deserve. I reached down and opened my briefcase. I had been waiting 4 months for this moment. The briefcase clicked open. The sound was louder than it should have been, or maybe it was just that the room was that quiet. I pulled out a manila envelope, the third one. Same color as the one Neil had brought, same size, but this one had yellow tabs and a certified stamp on the corner. I set it on the coffee table right next to the voluntary relinquishment Patricia's lawyer had left behind. 6 withdrawals, I said. I slid out the first page. Bank statements, highlighted lines from Mom's savings account over a period of 8 months. I placed it flat on the table. Sandra leaned in. 3,000 in April, 2,000 in June, 5,000 in August, 2,000 in September, 1,500 in October, 1,500 in November. I set each statement beside the last. Total $15,000, all withdrawn while Mom was in hospice care or too ill to leave the house. I pulled out the next page. 3 of these withdrawal slips have a signature. They are supposed to be Mom's. Patricia did not move. I sent these to a forensic document examiner. I continued. My voice was level. The examiner's preliminary opinion is that the signatures are inconsistent with Ruth Whitfield's known handwriting. The strokes are too upright, too heavy. Mom's hand was weak. These were written by someone whose hand was not. I looked at Patricia. She was gripping the edge of the couch cushion. Sandra picked up one of the statements. She held it close. Her eyes moved line by line. When she set it down, her face was different. Patricia's hands started shaking. I reached into the briefcase one more time. This was the part I had dreaded, not because I did not have the evidence, because it was my mother's voice. And once I read it aloud, it could never go back in the envelope. I held up the letter. 2 pages, yellow legal paper, blue ink. Mom wrote this letter and hid it in her cedar jewelry box. Emma found it 2 days ago. I looked at Emma. She nodded. I did not read the whole letter. I did not need to. I read the parts that mattered. Patricia borrowed $80,000 from me over 15 years. She never paid back a single dollar. I paused. Let it land. When I was in the hospital last March, someone took money from my account. I know who. The room was airless. Sandra had her hand over her mouth. Brenda was looking at the floor. Emma was watching Patricia. I kept reading. I did not confront her because I did not have the strength for that fight, but I changed my will because love should not be a debt someone collects on. I folded the letter and set it on the table between the bank records and the unsigned document. 3 envelopes, 3 truths, 1 table. Patricia's voice came out cracked and raw. She was confused. She was sick. She did not know what she was writing. She knew exactly what she was writing, I said. She listed dollar amounts. She listed dates. She described the withdrawal while she was hospitalized. This is not confusion, Patricia. This is a woman who ran out of time before she ran out of patience. Daniel stepped forward. He had been standing near the dining table, silent, letting me present the evidence on my terms. Now he spoke. The will of Ruth Whitfield is valid and certified. No family meeting, no voluntary agreement, and no unsigned document changes that. He looked directly at Patricia. Regarding the unauthorized withdrawals, $15,000 were removed from your mother's account during a period when she was medically incapacitated. 3 withdrawal slips bear signatures that a forensic examiner has flagged as inconsistent with her known handwriting. He paused. Let it settle. Forgery of a signature on a financial document is a felony in the state of Ohio. We have not filed a criminal referral. Whether we do depends on what happens next. Brenda stood up. You cannot threaten her. She is grieving. Daniel did not look at Brenda. He kept his eyes on Patricia. You were never entitled to what you did not earn. The sentence landed like a stone in still water. Nobody moved. Nobody exhaled. Patricia slammed her palm on the coffee table. The bank statement scattered. You have no right. She was my mother. She was mine too, I said. And she made her choice. Patricia turned on me. Her face was red. Her hands were fists. You planned this. You let Emma walk in here alone so you could humiliate me. I let Emma walk in here alone because you invited her here alone. I evened the field. Patricia's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Then she said something I did not expect. Her voice broke first, then her posture. Patricia sat down, not on the couch, on the floor, right there next to the coffee table like her legs had given up on holding her. Marcus left me. The words came out small, stripped of performance. No audience, no performance, just a woman on a living room floor saying the thing she had been hiding for months. He moved out in February and took his name off the mortgage. I have been covering it alone on one income. I am 3 months behind. The bank sent a notice last week." She pressed her hands to her face. "I needed that money, Carol. I needed it because I have nothing. I am 45 years old and I have nothing." The room was silent. Emma was watching with her hands clasped. Sandra had uncrossed her arms. Even Brenda, who had been bristling since Daniel walked in, was still. For a moment I saw my sister. Not the woman who had forged our mother's signature. Not the one who had cornered my daughter in a parking lot. Just Patricia, scared, broke, alone. And then I remembered the signatures. I remembered the $80,000 she never repaid. I remembered Emma sitting on my couch asking, should I just give it to her, and shaking. "You could have asked," I said. My voice was quiet. "You could have picked up the phone and said, Carol, I am struggling." You could have been honest with me, with Emma, with anyone. Patricia looked up. "Instead, you forged Mom's name while she was dying. You showed up at Emma's school and called her a thief. You organized this meeting to ambush a 21-year-old girl into signing away her future. I let a beat pass. That was your choice, not mine." Sandra was the first to speak. She had been standing near the hallway for 20 minutes, watching everything with the quiet attention of someone who came for pot roast and ended up in a courtroom. She looked at Patricia, still on the floor. Then she looked at me. "I came here because Patricia told me Emma was being greedy." Her voice was steady. "She said Emma had manipulated Aunt Ruth. She said you were backing it up to get money through your daughter." Sandra shook her head. I was ready to believe her. She picked up one of the bank statements from the table, looked at it, set it back down. "I see now who was greedy." Patricia flinched. Sandra turned to me. "Carol, I owe you an apology. I should have asked you first. I should not have taken her word." "You did not know," I said. "Now you do." Brenda stood up from the recliner. She picked up her purse, buttoned her cardigan, and walked out the front door without a single word. The screen door clapped shut behind her. Marcus was already gone. Neil was already gone. Now Brenda. Patricia sat alone on the floor of our mother's living room, the house that belonged to Emma, the house where Mom had wound the clock every Sunday and made lemon bars for the neighbors, the house Patricia had tried to take. She did not look up when I stood. I put my hand on Emma's shoulder. She rose from the chair. "Let's go home," I said. Emma paused at the door. She looked back at Patricia, and for a moment I thought she might say something, but she did not. She just touched the pearl brooch on her collar and walked through the door. Some things do not need words. 3 weeks later, Emma finalized the estate transfer. The house on Cedar Lane was officially hers. The savings account was moved into her name. Harold Simmons handled the last of the paperwork, and Daniel filed a formal letter to Patricia. The letter was simple. It stated that we were aware of the $15,000 in unauthorized withdrawals. It stated that a forensic handwriting analysis had flagged the signatures. And it stated that if the funds were not returned within 30 days, the matter would be referred to the county prosecutor's office. Patricia returned the money in 10 days. She did not call me. She did not write. She wired the funds through a bank transfer with no message attached. $15,000 appeared in Emma's account on a Tuesday afternoon. Emma did not celebrate. She set the money aside for renovations. She moved into the house the first week of April. She kept most of Mom's furniture. She repainted the guest room a soft blue and turned Mom's bedroom into a reading room. New shelves, a lamp with a warm bulb, a comfortable chair by the window. She placed the cedar jewelry box on the top shelf. Beside it, a framed photograph of Mom at the kitchen table, mid-laugh, a flower on her apron. The box that once held brooches and old earrings now held something else. A letter, a reminder, a woman's voice still clear after everything. Emma and I had dinner together every Sunday at the Cedar Lane house. Sandra came twice. The first time she brought a pie. The second time she brought her daughter. Nobody mentioned Patricia. I told Patricia through Daniel that she was welcome to have a relationship with Emma, but through honest conversation, through phone calls and visits, and the kind of effort that does not require a lawyer in the room. No intermediaries, no pressure, no documents on the table. She has not called. Maybe she will, maybe she will not. I cannot control that, but I can control what I allow into my daughter's life. And from this point forward, the door is open, but the terms are mine. One Sunday in late April, Sandra was at the house for dinner. Emma was telling her about the reading room, about how she had arranged the shelves by genre the way Grandma used to. Sandra asked about the meeting. Emma smiled, the look on Aunt Patricia's face when Mom walked in. She was completely calm, set down her briefcase like she was arriving at the office, and all she said was, "Funny, she brought someone too." Sandra laughed. "Your mom is something else." "She is," Emma said. She always has been. I was in the kitchen washing dishes. I could hear them through the doorway. I did not turn around. I just stood there with my hands in warm water and let my daughter's voice fill the house. The cedar box sat on the shelf in the next room. The pearl brooch was in Emma's jewelry drawer. The lemon tree Mom had planted in the backyard was starting to bud. Some things you protect because they are valuable. Some things you protect because they are irreplaceable. My daughter is both. Here is what I learned. You do not have to shout to be heard. You do not have to fight to win. Sometimes all it takes is the right documents, the right timing, and the willingness to stand between your child and anyone who would take from her what she earned. Nobody is entitled to what they did not earn. Not by birth, not by age, not by the volume of their voice in a crowded room. Patience is not weakness. Preparation is not revenge. And protecting your family is not something you ever need to apologize for. That is my story. One family meeting, one briefcase, and one sentence that changed everything.